December 1944. The Ardennes Forest. Snow covered the narrow roads of Belgium and Luxembourg. American soldiers were fighting in freezing temperatures. Visibility was poor. Communication lines were breaking down. Across the front, something unexpected was happening. German forces had launched a massive offensive through the Ardennes. Thousands of tanks and more than 200,000 soldiers pushed into the Allied lines. It was the beginning of what would become known as the Battle of the Bulge, the largest battle ever fought by the United States Army. Entire American units were being pushed back, and in the middle of the chaos, one town suddenly became the center of the entire battlefield. Bastogne, a small Belgian town surrounded by forests and narrow roads. But Bastogne was more than just another town on the map. It was a critical crossroads. 7 major roads passed through it. If the Germans captured Bastogne, their armored divisions could move rapidly across Belgium and threaten the port of Antwerp, one of the most important supply ports for the Allied armies. Inside Bastogne, the 101st Airborne Division was holding the line. Paratroopers who had fought in Normandy now found themselves surrounded by German forces on all sides. German tanks controlled the roads. German artillery was pounding the town. Supplies were running out. Food was scarce. Medical equipment was nearly gone. And the weather was so bad that Allied aircraft could not reach them. The 101st Airborne was completely isolated. At Allied headquarters, the situation looked extremely dangerous. General Omar Bradley, commander of the 12th Army Group, studied the reports arriving from the front. Every hour the situation seemed to get worse. German armored divisions were advancing deeper into Allied territory. Some American units were retreating. Others were cut off entirely. But the most urgent problem remained Bastogne. If the town fell, the entire German offensive could accelerate. Bradley understood the danger immediately. The surrounded paratroopers had to be relieved, and there was only one commander he believed could move fast enough to do it: General George S. Patton. Patton commanded the Third Army, which at that moment was attacking east toward Germany. His forces were making progress. After weeks of fighting, they had begun to break through German defenses. Stopping that offensive would be a serious decision. But Bradley knew the situation in Bastogne could not wait. So he contacted Patton and explained the crisis. Patton listened carefully. For a moment, he said nothing. His army had finally gained momentum. His tanks were pushing deeper into German territory. Turning the entire army around would be extremely difficult. But Patton also understood something else. Speed could change the outcome of battles. If Bastogne held, the German offensive could be stopped. If Bastogne fell, the situation could become far worse. So Patton gave an order that surprised even some of his own officers. Prepare to turn the entire Third Army north. It would require one of the most difficult maneuvers of the entire war. Nearly 250,000 soldiers would need to change direction. Hundreds of tanks, thousands of trucks, artillery batteries, fuel convoys, medical units, all of them moving across narrow winter roads covered in snow and ice. Many officers believed such a movement could take weeks. Patton planned to do it in a few days. The maneuver began almost immediately. Columns of American vehicles moved slowly across Luxembourg and southern Belgium. Tank crews drove through freezing snowstorms. Fuel trucks struggled to keep up with the advancing units. German resistance appeared on many roads. But the Third Army kept moving north. Inside Bastogne, the situation continued to worsen. The soldiers of the 101st Airborne Division were still surrounded. German commanders sent a message demanding their surrender. The American reply became famous. One word: nuts. The defenders refused to give up. They held their positions and waited. But they did not know how long they could last. Then, on December 26, 1944, something unexpected appeared on the southern road to Bastogne. American tanks. They belonged to the 4th Armored Division of Patton's Third Army. After days of intense fighting, they had finally broken through the German lines. The siege of Bastogne was broken. The road into the town was open. For the soldiers of the 101st Airborne, it meant survival. When the news reached Allied headquarters, many commanders were stunned. Just days earlier, most had believed it would take far longer to reach Bastogne. But Patton had managed to turn an entire army, move through winter conditions, and break the German encirclement in less than a week. Among the commanders who fully understood the scale of what had happened was General Omar Bradley. Bradley had known Patton for years. They had trained together. They had fought together, and they had commanded American armies during some of the most difficult battles of the war. But even Bradley was impressed by what Patton had accomplished. Later, when speaking about the relief of Bastogne, Bradley said something that perfectly captured the moment. He said that Patton had performed one of the most remarkable operational maneuvers of the entire war, turning an army in the middle of winter, moving faster than the enemy expected, and reaching a surrounded division just in time. The relief of Bastogne became one of the most famous moments of the Battle of the Bulge. It showed how quickly the course of a battle could change. It also showed why General George S. Patton had gained a reputation as one of the most aggressive and unpredictable commanders of the Second World War. But perhaps most importantly, it proved something about leadership during war. Sometimes the difference between defeat and survival comes down to a single decision, and the speed with which that decision is carried out. Now I want to hear your opinion. Do you think Patton's maneuver to save the 101st Airborne Division was one of the greatest military decisions of the Second World War? Write your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about real commanders and the decisions that changed history, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.